I'm really excited. It was hard being off the mat for such a long time. That was the longest I've been without wrestling, so I'm ready to get the season going and see what I can do.
Tomas, following up on that, that freshman year you had, you came into your own. You were really moving, and then again you had that season cut short last year. Um, with that time off the mat, what did you learn about yourself, and what did you put into your training and your recovery to come back this year stronger than you did prior to last year's preseason?
I learned I can persevere through a lot of adversity, a lot of doubt, a lot of negative thoughts, and skill wise, I learned a lot. I'm going to come back better this year, and I'm ready to do more.
Sometimes a long layoff when you're healthy, you're an athlete, can lead to a little bit of a little atrophy there, where you're like, oh, the weight's falling off, or the other way, you can go the weight get big. How did you manage your weight through all that?
Immediately after surgery, I lost a decent amount of weight, but as soon as I was able to start getting active and start working out, it came back on, and I'm probably the strongest and biggest I've been since at college.
Tell me, Tomas, what are you most excited about for this season? Getting back on the mat, getting after it. What are you most looking forward to?
I'm looking forward to just being able to compete again. This is the longest I've been without any actual competition, and it's exciting to be able to come back.
Awesome. I remember watching you last season, really cheering on your teammates, and you were right there in it with them. So, just what kind of things were you thinking about, or what was running through your head watching matches or tournament footage or anything like that? Because I feel when you're actually wrestling, you see it differently than when you're watching, and you can go, oh, well, that's what that looks like, or your brain kind of puts it together differently. So what how has maybe your mindset with wrestling changed since you've had a lot of kind of observation study time, if that makes sense?
Mhm. I think I've been able to, become more of a student of the sport with this time off, being able to watch all my teammates compete, and just being able to watch other wrestlers. I've been able to grow in that way, kind of tactically.
When looking at the program as a whole, you're a North Carolina guy. You represent a school in North Carolina. What's that mean to you to, like, as Coach said, no, to that big block A? What's that mean to you to represent not just the school but your home state every time you step out on the mat?
It means a lot. North Carolina wrestling isn't highly valued, especially from, you know, coming up through wrestling as a North Carolinian, but I think it's good for me to set example on what's possible as a wrestler from North Carolina.
I like to always ask a fun question to athletes. What has been maybe your favorite like workout or post-workout shake up at App Fuel, or your favorite pre-workout snack when you're getting a lift in or you're about to hit practice?
I like the chocolate milks that they have in the weight room after lift.
Yeah, I feel like coming in the sophomore year, I feel a lot more seasoned. I feel like I'm coming in a lot more better shape, better mindset. I feel like I'm a lot less homesick, definitely. Good to say, I'm getting used to being here in Boone.
Stephan, you were one of three true freshman heavyweights to make the national tournament last year in a weight class that was obviously senior dominated, a lot of experience. Obviously, what happened at the end was headline making for everybody that was a wrestling fan. What did you get out of your experience at the national championships? Again, first time out there, it's like this is the big lights. This is what it's about.
I feel like being out there for the first time really gave me perspective on how big that tournament really is. And like watching it versus being in it is a huge difference. And then seeing that finals match makes me realize that who you're wrestling, what they've done, it doesn't mean anything when you're on the mat.
When we look at your performance last year, you were real streaky. You'd get on hot streaks, you get on cold streaks, you ended the year, the regular season on a hot streak, closing out with 7 straight, winning a conference title. So, how do you get yourself to be more consistent now that you've gone through a full college wrestling season, knowing, okay, I know what it's like to get there. How do you go about making yourself, again, more consistent with those wins and losses?
I think what I learned from last year is definitely being more consistent training. So I didn't really get too much extra stuff going on training wise early in the season, and then I realized that that's what makes the jumps is those extra training sessions, those extra little workouts you do. It doesn't have to be anything crazy, just getting in the room, working out a little more, and then definitely having more confidence in myself. That's what I really account to my success later in the season.
So many times when freshmen come to a wrestling room and they're not seeing the success they did. I mean, like, whoa, this is a whole different level. How did you see yourself get better as a wrestler from that first day of preseason to that first day at the national championships? I mean, maybe compare. How do you think you'd have competed against yourself in March than you were in, day one in November and October?
Yeah, I feel like thinking back to the beginning of that freshman year was I was wrestling like a high schooler who wasn't setting up my attacks, wasn't really doing good top bottom. Then working to like keep working on those flaws in my wrestling toward like throughout the year with Coach Bentley, Coach Diabe, working on getting up the bottom, working on setting up my attacks. I really would think if I went back and wrestled myself from the beginning, it wouldn't even be close. I was a completely different wrestler.
Is there any point last season where, something just clicked? You're like, this is how it's done.
Mm. It was definitely when they were telling me about hand fighting. I was not a big hand fighter in high school. I would really just break a tie and then shoot a double, and that would really all I would need. And realizing that extending the hand fight and being more intentional with my hands is gonna open up my attacks.
Circling back, I believe your sister also wrestles in New York, correct? So, tell me what that's been like to be a big brother, to a woman in wrestling or a woman who wrestles, and like how maybe do you guys train together? Do you coach her some? What does that family dynamic look like?
I mean, I love it. I love that she's starting to get into it. She started last year and she's coming back this year. A lot more excited about it. And whenever I go home or I'll train with her, or she'll have a match, she'll call me, ask me for pointers. I'll watch her matches. It's a I think it's really brought us closer together, give us something to talk about.
And then again, something Kaden was talking about is the brotherhood and like how close the whole team is. What are some things that you found um, have been important to developing that brotherhood and that tightness as a team?
I think just going through the grind together is really just going to bring you closer naturally. I mean, we all go through the same practices, the same early runs, same early lifts. Like we're all in it together. We go through the ups and downs of the team. We win as a team, lose as a team. So I think it just brings us all closer together.
And what do you think maybe the biggest change from last year to now? What do you think like your biggest change has been? Maybe mindset, training, squat max, anything like that. What's been your biggest change?
I think my biggest change came from a mindset. I think coming off of last year, I know now that I have the ability to compete at a high level, on this level.
I'm just excited to wrestle someone that's not my teammate, honestly, and just see the growth that we've made through off season, preseason. We haven't competed for a while, so I want to see the growth we've made as a team as a whole, and we're a tight knit team, so I'm excited.
Okay, when we look at last year, so close to making the show, so close. And then, a guy behind you in the conference tournament gets an at-large bid. How much does that drive your offseason? How much did that try to, fire you up to come into this season and make the big show?
I mean, it fires me up a lot. I mean, I remember losing that match, and then, I think it was Coach Bentley or Coach Diabe said to me, they said, remember this feeling because, you know, that's the worst feeling I've ever had in my life. And he's like, you never want to have this feeling again. So, you know, I don't want to have that feeling again. So that's what pushes me every single day to just go out there and get better.
You know, there's a level of toughness. I live in Minnesota, so I know about these harsh upper Midwest winters. And Rachel complaining about the cold in Carolina. It ain't the same. So you come in from South Dakota, a little more battle tested when it comes to that grit, the desire to live through the hard stuff. Translates over to wrestling, and then yeah, you've been down there a couple years now. So how does that South Dakota upbringing kind of play into the almost the blue collar work ethic of App State wrestling?
Yeah, well, App State is blue collar mentality. And, you know, coming from South Dakota, I grew up on a farm, cattle, you know, we hay in the summertime, you know, cold winters, you know, and it kind of fit in perfectly. And I can tell just from like my recruitment coming in that that's the type of program that's going to translate directly to my wrestling and to my lifestyle. And so, you know, I just fit in perfectly and yeah, perfect.
You know, taking the chance to, that's a long way from home. I know that I'm originally from Virginia, so those getting back and forth and seeing family is not ideal a lot of places. And then wrestling season, you know, these off seasons, have you spend time going home? Do you stay around campus? Like, what's changed since you first arrived to how you handle yourself in the off season and preseason now?
Yeah, so when I remember my first Christmas, I flew back home and of course got delayed flight, you know, couldn't come back for a few days, you know, and from South Dakota couldn't get back to fly into Charlotte for a little while. So then after that, you know, I decided I'm just going to stay here. I'm just going to train, you know, and then I do go home during the summer times for about a month or so and just let my body recover, you know, see some family, everything like that. But, you know, it's still all go. You know, I try to wrestle when I can back at home, a bunch of the high school guys, a bunch of my club guys, and yeah, so I don't get to see family very much, but you know, I only get to wrestle at this level for a short period of time, so it's well worth the 4 or 5 years I have here.
What's been the best part about assimilating to the South from South Dakota?
Um, you know, they got good food down here. I'm not gonna lie, good barbecue, pretty good barbecue. Not as good steaks though, but yeah, you know, they got good food down here. It's a little different being from South Dakota, and then you come here and you see all the trees, and you're like, what in the world is going on? You know, but you know, I like the South. I like the views. I like going outside. I like hiking. I like everything like that. So it's pretty awesome.
I also went to App, so yes, gorgeous, beautiful, especially this time of year. Peak week, I think was a couple weeks ago, right?
You,
So just absolutely gorgeous. But tell me, talking about how close you are with your teammates, what are some things that you found that has been the most impactful with team building and team bonding and like really establishing that brotherhood?
well, I feel like just like I get to even tell from my recruitment that being here, it's like you're just a family. You know, we're a very tight-knit community, like as App State as a whole, but even the team is just so close. You know, like we can go out and hang out with anyone on the team. You know, we're just friends, everyone's buddies, you know, and I think that also comes from, you know, just working so hard together in the wrestling room kind of builds that up. You know, if we can go and we can, you know, put our bodies on the line and we can go and sweat, work really hard in the wrestling room, you know, that just brings us so close together that just everything outside is just fun. You know, we enjoy it.
Awesome. And tell me what it's like having a couple of your former teammates in a coaching position, and you go from wrestling with them and training with them every day to now you're learning from them. So what's that transition felt like, and how do you feel like you're learning from them?
Yeah, so like Will Miller and Sean Carter, teammates the last couple of years, and now they're in this coaching role, and they've been helping me a lot. You know, they've seen me a lot more on the outside, not just in the wrestling room. And so they know me more personally, everything like that. And so they've directed like everything like from outside into the wrestling room. And it's just helping me a lot. And, you know, I respect those guys and it's great to still wrestle with them and have them as an asset to just learn from.
I'm just excited to wrestle again. I mean, this team's looking good. I think we're practicing hard. We've got a good dynamic going. I think it's going to be fun.
Jerry, last year's your first year up at 157. You're back at the weight this year. You've settled into it. What's going to be the biggest difference from you this year in the lineup than last year in the lineup?
For me, I put a lot of time in the weight room, and I have kind of fell into the weight class a little better. Last year I was small and didn't have a big understanding of kind of how undersized I was, but now I kind of understand and have worked out and tried to get bigger in order to fill this weight class in properly.
Also, same question I kind of asked Tomas about representing North Carolina out there. I mean, state school, you're a state kid. The opportunity to wrestle in state, within a reasonable drive of friends and family. How much does that help you when it comes to preparing for a home duel or preparing for other duels in the SoCon, where you've got your support system prior to getting App State there with you?
It means a lot and it helps a lot. I mean, my whole goal growing up was to be able to show the younger generation of North Carolina that you can compete at the highest level coming from North Carolina. And I'm still on that same path. I'm trying to show them anything is possible if you work hard. And I want to kind of improve and help this younger generation of North Carolina and show them that anything's possible.
So coming off of last season's third place conference finish, where do you think you've made your biggest adjustments? And I know that, you're not wrestling just for one result and for one tournament, but looking at your whole season, where you started, where you finished, and where you're starting now. I hope that made sense because my brain's moving faster than my mouth. But like your growth and development as a wrestler, just from last year to now.
I put a lot of time focusing on kind of wrestling all positions. Not only that, but wrestling hard and picking up my offense and being able to score and score and score and put up a high pace on people. I think that's really going to help, especially maybe if I am undersized compared to some of these kids. If I could put more of pace on them and put them in my wheelhouse, which I've been working, it's really going to help kind of level the playing field, if not put me at an advantage.
And what are the things that you think, because you mentioned getting into the weight room, a big part of that also, nutrition, getting your calories in, eating right. So tell me, what kind of things have you been working on in those aspects to really fit into that 157-pound weight class?
For me, it was a lot focusing on nutrition. I met with Tess a lot, eating lots of calories and making sure I got my weight up the right way and not jumping up too fast, too quick, but trying to get like a pound and all that maybe by week. And then as the camps kind of rolled around and we got done with those, losing it slowly, getting a pound off a week, making sure I kept most of that muscle that I put on and didn't just crash it and lose all that muscle. So it come a lot with just doing the small things, making sure I was sleeping, eating everything that like went into my body, tracking it, making sure the right stuff went in there, really making sure that I was focused every lift and every workout.
And do you feel like this has positively impacted your performance as a student?
I do, because you feel better, and then focusing on all the small things, even if it's nutrition, it really kind of plays over in everything. Like focusing on all the small things and assignments and classrooms, you're more like attentive, and it's just better.
It's really awesome. I'm glad to hear that. I'm also a dietitian, so it's really awesome to watch. I like to see these stories, and people usually see wrestling, they think, oh, weight cutting and it's so unhealthy. But thank you for the showing you can do this well, and you do well in the room and in the classroom. And is there any competition that you're most looking forward to this season, or any one particular date on the calendar that really sticks out to you this year?
For me, it is around the first month, I think it is. We got some of our hardest matches. We got that Journeyman coming up. That one's going to be exciting. We got Virginia Tech, I believe, and NC State and West Virginia. They always have good kids. I'm just excited to go out there and wrestle and see where I line up, if not prove myself.
And what do you have to say to other North Carolina high school wrestlers that want to wrestle in college? What's your words of wisdom to them?
For me, it's work hard and believe in yourself and just go out there to prove everybody that North Carolina is a wrestling state.